that your father's abusive towards you, because the father is a very powerful figure in our lives as an archetype, and like he let you down.
Oh, for sure. Worse than that,
Worse
just
than
like
that.
failure, flop, monster, evil. Like my body always knew that he was like a demon.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and back to another video. I was supposed to wash and style my hair today, but I just don't have time. I'm just tired and I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna do it today. So excuse my hair if it looks a little bit wild and dry and frizzy. It's the life of a curly hair person, all right? Don't judge me. So last week, I did a video reacting to Blaire White's video entitled, I went to therapy to figure out why I'm transgendered. And I only did one part of this video, which was about 15 minutes long because I didn't want to have a super long video. And I told you guys that I definitely would be doing a part 2 if you guys wanted me to do a part 2. And I got so many comments on that video asking me to please do a part 2 to finish the video out. So that's what I'm gonna do. We're doing part 2. We're going to finish it up because you guys asked for it. I'm going to just put my scrunchie up because my hair's getting on my nerves. So yeah, I left off at the 14-minute mark when the video ended. So that's where we're going to continue. So without further ado, let's get into this.
I don't think that's normal. Like, and even less normal than like a regular abnormal sense. Cause like abnormal is like not good or bad. It just deviates from normal. But for me, I was like, no, there was like something unspoken about that I'm not admitting to myself. Like, was that me running away from my past? And I think in part, for sure.
Right. Well, also, when our childhood is really, really scary, we don't want to be in our bodies. Like, we don't want to be in our actual bodies because it's not safe to be in our bodies. And we have all kinds of ways that we leave. And so maybe there was something about you not wanting to be in your actual body, or you wanted to change your body in some way. Does that track for you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's the full explanation.
Sure.
Man, I could really get in the weeds here. There's a lot of stuff in water now that feminizes people.
Yeah.
You can kind of just not even need to look at studies for that. You can kind of just observe, right, the world around you. I'm big on that. Like, I don't always need to study. I can see things.
Yeah.
So maybe that was the first brick, is building me now was that before I was even born, maybe in the womb, something prenatal.
Do you have regrets?
With transition? No.
No. You're comfortable with where you're at right now?
More than comfortable. And that's actually the reason why I think people don't want to admit to themselves sometimes that maybe transition is partly a trauma response, is because they don't want to put it out there that like somehow it makes it less valid or not really them or a costume of sort.
Right.
And for me, the way I've thought about it is like, look what my body did to allow me to survive. Like, the trauma response is literally a survival mechanism. That's what they are. So my body did this crazy elaborate thing, and I'm still here, and I'm the only successful person in my family, and I'm the, only person who's even began to look at these toxic patterns they all have that I broke.
Right.
It's like, to look at that and be like, that means I'm not actually Blaire or something. I am Blaire because I chose to be Blaire.
Yeah.
And I still am Robert. I still am that person too.
Right.
I'm all of it.
I love that.
Wow, really quickly, that's pretty deep. That's pretty deep to even admit that. And I have to give Blaire credit because coming out publicly, right, and saying that as a trans person, the reason why, or a big reason why I became trans is because it was a trauma response from abuse that I dealt with from my childhood and my father and things of that nature. That's not something that is very popular to say, right? Especially in today's day and age with the trans identifying movement and the gender movement. There's this push to normalize the idea of not liking your physical body and wanting to be a different gender, when in all reality, that is not normal behavior. That is a defect. That is something is not right, right? Like, I don't care who you are, you would never wish that upon anybody that you love, or I hope you suffer one day from gender dysphoria. Like, who would say that, right? Nobody, because it's a very difficult life to live. It's extremely grueling mentally, emotionally, physically. It's not a great place to be. And so I really applaud Blaire for being able to acknowledge that part, say, I don't regret transitioning for myself because I needed it to survive, which is so deep and so layered, but also admitting that the reason why, in Blaire's particular specific case, the reason why transitioning was a thing was to survive the trauma that little Robert went through. That's really tough to come to terms with, to admit, to even talk about. So major props and major kudos, because I'm sure the trans movement is not happy, because what they want to do is normalize this condition and almost glamorize it, right? Make it seem as though it's something that is desirable. And if you have it, oh, you're lucky. And the reality is there's so much underneath the surface of a person who struggles with this disorder that nobody wants to talk about, right? We only see the finished product, right? We only see when a person is fully transitioned and then they're living their life and they're happy and they're making videos and everything is just amazing, so it seems. But nobody talks about the why. Nobody talks about any past trauma that could have been a key to why a person hates their physical body and their sexual organs. Like, that's a pretty deep issue to have. And the fact that so many doctors overlook the why and just completely affirm and go straight to treatment, and there's no correlation as to, wait a minute, let's put a pause on this for a second. You know, let's really dive deep. Because in all actuality, when Blaire was Robert, if Robert had, I think, the right medical intervention, which was, let's talk about this deeper. Let's get into the weeds of why you feel this way. Let's talk about your trauma. I'm willing to guess that when Blaire was Robert, the idea of trauma and talking about trauma wasn't even on the forefront of their mind, because all Robert wanted to do was escape that body. And at the time, doctors were willing and ready to oblige. And it just makes me wonder about all of the other kids out there that maybe have similar stories to Blaire, and they're being told by their parents, by their peers, by their teachers, by the doctors, transition. That's the key. I just wonder how many others are transitioning due to trauma. And because it's so taboo to say that, so many are going to overlook getting proper treatment in order to appease the moment, the feeling. But wanting to be trans could be a symptom of something else. Just saying. Could be a symptom of something else. And that's what Blaire is trying to dissect in this video, which is why it's so brave, because as a trans person, you're not supposed to say that, right? Especially one that isn't detransitioning. Blaire has no intentions of going back to being a male. So the fact that Blaire lives as a female and is saying outwardly so, my reasoning for transitioning was because of trauma and because I was trying to escape an abuse that I went through physically in my body. Wow.
I love how you just articulated that. I mean, you could make the argument that everything we're doing is a trauma response. Like what I'm doing in some way, the skills that I've developed and the interests and the direction I've gone in my life is a response to things that happened to me in my childhood. You know, I definitely know that's why I became an actor originally. I became an actor because I didn't feel seen as a child and I wanted to be seen. And I thought, oh, if I could become an actor, become famous, then people are going to see me. And then, you know, you quickly realize they don't see you at all. It's actually the opposite.
Yeah.
You're seen less. And in some way I was doing it to please my mother and to win over her love. So I don't think there's an escape from living our lives in response to what we experienced as children.
I agree.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting about that is, like, as you were kind of breaking down all the things you've realized about why you became an actor, I thought, like, what a shame that the world puts this stop sign in front of people who begin to question, why am I really trans? Or why are trans people really trans?
Yeah.
That the amount of real conversations you can have about it in this world is almost none. That's why I get so much hate from people, because the way I feel is like, how dare anyone tell me how to talk about my own experience, how I'm viewing this thing that I am, that I have, that is me, whatever. How dare you try to limit my talk of that because it's politically inconvenient, and half the people that think it's politically inconvenient to talk about it aren't even trans themselves? Go away. I can talk how I want about my own shit. And if I come to false conclusions, then that's part of the journey. But
Right.
But I feel like I'm probably right about the trauma response thing.
Yeah. Well, the suspicion, of course, is when people are trying to stifle conversation that there's something they're hiding or something they don't want to face.
Yeah.
And you pick up on that because you have a bullshit detector that's very acute and you want to speak it. I mean, it's just amazing to hear you say all these things, because I've had these thoughts, of course, but I don't want to say them out because
About trans people?
Well, just, you know, gay, trans, that there's aspects of it that are a response to trauma. And because I've sat with people and I've talked to them and I've heard them say that. I wonder if I'm actually gay because of what happened to me with my dad. And, like clients
People
just...
have those real conversations in real life, but in, online and in public discourse, people act as if these conversations don't happen. And if they do, they're completely invalid. And I hate that because I'm like, there's a difference between saying things that are, politically incorrect in terms of like you're just trying to be cruel or an asshole or whatever.
That's right.
But if people are trying to have real conversations about their own bodies, how fucking dare anyone tell them not to? Because like I look at so many people, particularly in the trans community, and like a lot of them are just so lost, and then you count that now the trans community, in my opinion, isn't even really the trans community. And it's not a community at all. People are thinking they're trans when they're not, because people have broadened what it means to be this crazy thing, which also dilutes people's ability to understand what they are. If I believed all the public narratives about trans, I would never come to really profound, valuable conclusions about my own life and about areas of my life that aren't even to do with trans, because it all bleeds into other things. So it's like, I see a lot of lost energy with people who are trans, and I think it's partly because they and society have like worked together to create this block from going any further beyond like a really superficial analysis of what it is.
Yeah, that's a great point that Blaire just made about what it means to be trans nowadays and how the umbrella underneath trans is so vast now, right? See, back in the day, it used to be if you were somebody who wanted to be the opposite sex and you were actively trying to medically transition, i.e. taking hormones, getting full surgery, living as the opposite sex, you were considered a trans person or a transsexual. Back then they had different words for it, transvestite, things like that nature. But you were somebody who was acknowledged as somebody who was trans because you were actively trying to transition from one gender medically to another. Now it's become, if I feel, then I am. So you don't have to do anything medically. In fact, now non-binary is considered being trans because emotionally, you are transitioning from whatever sex you were born as into a non-sex. And so now you're considered trans. And now you have all these other different various genders now that have been created. There's like 30 or 40, and that is now considered trans. And none of those people, majority, are not medically transitioning into anything. They just live their life in their head as something else. And so they are. And it's become so vast. And like anybody can be trans now, which is why so many kids in the Gen Z category, and probably Gen Alpha coming up after them, see themselves as trans because they don't want to be what they are. And a lot of the times, Blaire's right, it comes down to just being confused. Some of these kids are dealing with trauma, and the idea of being something else than what you actually are is a very powerful thing. It's taking back the power that may have been taken from you from whatever abuse you're going through. Not to say that every single trans person has gone through abuse or trauma, but there is a correlation with many people who have dealt with trauma who suddenly want to switch and be something else because they don't want to associate with who they once were or who they used to be. They want to change so badly, and those conversations are real. Those conversations are absolutely real, and they should be had. And I think the problem with the trans movement today and why so many people scoff at it is because the definition of what a trans person is has changed drastically from what it used to be. Back in the day, it was a medical procedure. It was a medical transition. Now it's a Tuesday and I want to be something else. I'm now trans. And that's it. That's all it takes. Which is why you have all of these 11, 12, 13-year-old kids in junior high school suddenly becoming trans. Because they can. Because it's trendy. And when you do that, it diminishes what trans actually is and how difficult it is and how grueling it can be for a person who genuinely is trans, who genuinely is dealing with real gender dysphoria versus a trendy, I want to be something else. And again, we can't have these conversations because when we try to have these conversations, we're called transphobic. And the conversation gets shut down immediately. Oh, you think differently than me? You're phobic.
Has it been painful for you to be demonized in the way that you've been demonized and judged and hated?
At certain times, but...
That's a lot to hold. Like you hold a lot of negative transference. It's a lot of projection that's put on you, and you're just a person, relatively young, and you started when you were very young, and all of this energy is coming at you, and that must have been a lot to handle.
Yeah. Also, I just turned 30, and I've been doing this since I was 23. So like the difference between 23 and 30 is like, wow. And
Right.
then, you know, now seeing my life for really what it is. I mean, I was just like alone in Los Angeles in an apartment, like no real family, no real guidance. No one ever showed me what's right and what's wrong. So I've made a lot of mistakes, but like publicly, you know? And
Yeah.
so at certain times it's been hard and like a dent to your ego to like be like, why is this bothering me that people are saying this? But it's a lot less now. Like it's almost never now. I've really come to understand that any public figure, but especially someone who represents so many intense things like I do to people, we are just mirrors to people. Like they see what they want to see.
Yeah.
They see, you know, what they expect to see. They will use the persona of you, the identity of you that they have or they perceive however they want. And it really has almost nothing to do with you.
That's right.
So
Projection.
if people now get mad over shit that I say, I know that everything I say is how I truly see things. And I also know I'm not some asshole who holds on to things forever and makes it my identity. My beliefs are not necessarily my identity. You know, like I can change. I've changed a lot, literally, physically, mentally,
Yeah,
everything. Like
yeah.
a lot of changes.
Yeah. Who protects you? Do you need protection?
In some ways, but in other ways, you
Do
know,
you
maybe
want
it's,
protection?
no.
But you know, it's when you're talking, I have this impulse to like hold you, like I want to like hug you, like some protector comes up in me because I see that little boy and I see all of this energy coming at you, and I know you can handle it. Like I know you're strong, and there's this other part of me, or you know, talking about your dad or your mom not there. I just like my heart opens up to you in that place, you know, because it just must have been so scary, and the feeling of just being alone, because in some way you are. There's nobody like you.
Yeah.
There's nobody out there who's trans who's saying the things that you're saying, and I know you have a lot of allies and you have a lot of people that love you,
Yeah.
right?
But no blueprint.
But there's nobody like you.
Yeah.
And that's I mean, and I can see that you know, you hold that well, and this is your journey and this is your karma, and who knows why, and you're living out your mission. That feels very clear to me. Like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Thank God you're here, right?
Yeah.
We need you, and that's a lot.
It is a lot.
You just kind of bring your feet together. And you just hit samurai style, like right over your head, and then just come down.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And the intention of it is really just to help us express held back energy, emotions, right? It doesn't have to look a particular kind of way. And what happens is when we start hitting, right, and we hold a lot of energy, you know, in here, especially like anger back here.
Yeah, I'm all right here, my chakras.
Right. And so this will kind of start to release it, and then feelings will come up. Well, we'll do it a couple rounds just so you can get the feel for it.
Okay.
Really quickly before we watch this this exercise, that's pretty deep what he said. Like when you think about it, Blaire White really is one of a kind, right? Because there really is no other trans person that is in mainstream that lives as a trans person, but also admits that the trans movement has completely become unhinged, that being trans for this person was partly because of a trauma response, and how many other trans people aren't dealing with the trauma at all, which is why they become trans. Like how many other people are on the same path, right? You also have Blaire, who is, I want to say, conservative in many ways as far as the politics of it all, which again is a no-no, right? According to the left, you have to fit in a certain box, and if you don't fit in that box, they lose their ever-loving mind. And the reason why I call the gender community today a gender cult is because if you veer off just a little bit, they attack you. The mob mentality, they come after you. We see it with Candace Owens as well, who's a black conservative commentator, right? Like, if you do not fit the description of what your physical features are supposed to fit, whether it be race or gender, all hell breaks loose on the left, and they come after you. And it's not easy. It's not easy to stand on a large platform and to say, these are my beliefs, this is what I think, these are my convictions, and I'm putting it out there, and I don't care if it offends you. This is what I think. This is what I feel. There is courage in that, but even more so, like he said, when you're the only one, right? Because like, think about it. What other trans person is out there right now that's conservative, that can openly say that being trans was a trauma response for them, and also question how many other kids are dealing with trauma and trans is the answer for them because of how affirming it is in today's society? Like, name me one other trans person publicly that's saying that. The only other trans person who's conservative is Caitlyn Jenner. That's it. I can't think of anybody else. Kudos to Blaire to be able to stand and say, regardless of all of the ammo that's coming my way, this is what I think, and I'm standing on it, and I'm not going to change. Blaire has consistently been Blaire as far as opinions and politics and the delivery for years now. Has not changed. Got to give credit to somebody who is not going to change with the wind, because it's so easy in today's society to do that. I also want to say too, on the trans issue, when it comes to children and when it comes to other factors, it's important to note that, and I didn't know this until I did some research, a lot of kids who identify as trans or non-binary or have gender issues tend to be on the autism spectrum, which not many people talk about. I think I know why. It's because it's not politically correct to talk about that, because again, it takes away from the, oh, this is naturally who I am, and it then becomes, this is a symptom of something bigger. Doctors and politics and the gender cult, they don't want us saying that, because then it invalidates the whole trans experience in their minds. All right, let's watch Blaire beat up a pillow in this physical exercise.
Just hit, and you want to let out some sound. That's the important part of it, because you can see the difference between like I'm holding through here, and when I make a sound, more energy comes through.
Okay.
And I understand it's really vulnerable.
It definitely is, but that's what we're here for.
Yeah,
so.
just see what happens. Just see what happens.
Okay.
Just try it out. You'll get the feel for it.
Okay. Should I be thinking of anything specific when I do this?
Well, I think the thing to do, I'll help you, but like first just hit and just see what it feels like and let out a sound. And if things start to come up, just notice. Just notice what comes up.
Okay.
If anything.
Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm already feeling something.
What are you
I'm not
feeling?
kidding. It just feels really good.
Oh, good. Let it feel good.
There's something else there too. I don't know. It just feels good. But
Good.
yeah, it goes on autopilot.
Yeah,
It starts
but
autopiloting.
no, yes, and feelings are there. I can see your body
Yeah.
shaking a little bit, like
Yeah.
something wants to come through.
Yeah.
It's just scary.
Yeah.
Just look at me for a sec. Just be here. Because you go away. Mm-hmm. Right? So see what it's like to just like hit. How do you feel with me? Do you feel safe? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So just hit and look at me and just say, like, stay the fuck away from me. Like, look right at me.
Oh, okay.
And see what happens.
Okay.
Just fuck you.
Okay. I guess I'm, to be real, a little bit scared of like, even my body language all closed off. I'm like scared of like if I go too far with it, that maybe I'll say things that are just like super private that I'm not ready to necessarily say.
I understand.
But
Well,
I mean,
Well, here's what I hear that and I get that. The story doesn't matter,
okay.
right? Like, and I understand you're gonna have an impulse.
Really quickly, my heart feels really heavy right now watching this. It really does. Like I feel so bad. Like, and I know that Blaire needs this therapy. Blaire needs this breakthrough. Blaire needs this moment right now, because there's such a wall that's so high up right now. And I don't know if Blaire's ever been vulnerable. And I think the reason why vulnerability has been non-existent is because of the trauma. Is because of, if I'm vulnerable, then I'm weak. And if I'm weak, then I can be attacked. I think that's the correlation with what Blaire is going through. So watching this, as uncomfortable as it is, it's also heartbreaking. Like, it's making me want to cry, because there's parts of what's happening here that I can relate to. Like, I've never in my life grabbed something and just like went crazy and released that energy physically. Never. I'm a very composed person, and it's very rare that you'll ever see me react emotionally and lose my stuff, you know, like just like be in the moment. Like, I'm not that person. I'm a very controlled person, but I think this kind of therapy may be good for me as well, because I'm sure there's things that I'm holding on to that I don't even realize, or things that I need to let go of physically, because like he said, it's almost like an energy that's holding you down. And it makes sense, because when we're angry, when we're sad, when we're holding on to baggage, it physically, it's like, you know, you feel it. It's waiting. It's a weight on your back. And I'm sure there's something that is so refreshing to be able to just slam that item on the bed or on the pillow and to release that energy. Release it there and leave it there. Like, that's really powerful. And you can see the breakthrough happening. The moment Blaire grabbed the item, I don't know what it's called, the joust. The moment Blaire grabbed it, it was like, you could sense a feeling of like, oh, okay, I'm feeling something, you know? Like, I felt it from the video. Like, I felt it in my body. Like, I was like, I don't know what that is, but I feel it. And I have a very sensitive spirit. I've always had since I was a kid. I can feel things from other people without them even telling me. So watching this is kind of triggering me, not in a bad way, but it's triggering me in a way where I can feel the energy from what's happening. And it's really sad. But I'm also happy that Blaire is having this moment, because this could be the breakthrough that Blaire needs to let go of the abuse, the pain, the hurt, the anger, the physical toll that I can only imagine has been weighing Blaire down for years. All right, let's watch the remainder of this video.
Impulse to bring up elements of the story or say certain things. It's really just the energy, which you've just done, which is F you, I hate you, F guy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it's just letting yourself have those feelings all the way. And seeing what might be there underneath it.
I'm feeling more than usual right now.
Yeah.
It's like actually pretty crazy, but
What are you feeling?
It definitely feels like a release, but like also like my body feels really like angry.
Okay.
You know, which I guess is the goal of it. And it feels good to feel it. It does feel good to feel it.
You scared?
A little bit.
What do you need in this place that you're scared? What do you need?
I guess I need some form of justice, like for like everything that's happened. No, I know I need that, but I also know there's no way to do that because he's dead.
Yeah, okay, but let me, you want to try something?
Yeah.
Let's just and just see what, is it okay if I hold your hand? Mm-hmm. And just feel this, because I'm a pretty strong, tough guy. I can handle myself. Just feel what it's like. I got you. I'm not gonna let anyone hurt you. You're safe. I got you.
Why is that making me cry? I don't know why that would make me cry. That's pretty fucked up. It's like a good thing to hear.
Well, maybe that's what you needed as a little girl. Little boy.
Yeah.
That's what you needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You trust him? You can be mad at me.
I'm not.
You can push me away. You can go crazy. I'm still gonna be here. It's okay.
This is deep.
It's like really wild that that's causing this reaction in me. You know, really says something.
What does it say to you?
That like, there's a lot of damage that clearly has been done that when I hear that, it doesn't sound something familiar.
Yeah.
You know, and even if it did, I never believed it, where it would come from,
right.
You know? So someone, you know, providing me safety has never ever been a thing for me.
Yeah.
You know, not with money, not with physical safety, not with emotional safety, it's just not a thing.
Yeah.
Never has been.
Yeah, but you wanted it, you longed for it. How could you not? for someone to protect you,
Yeah.
someone to take care of you, somebody to be there for you, so you don't have to carry the burden, the weight of all of it.
Yeah.
It's too much. It's too much.
It's way too
It's
much.
way too much. Much. You said, like, I kind of had to take care of my family. That's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're there to take care of you.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to do it all yourself. And you don't have to be, hear me, you don't have to be on your own. You don't have to be alone all the time. It doesn't have to be that way. But the risk for you is you're going to have to let people in. And I understand why you wouldn't. I get it, right? And you can go as slow as you need to go, right? But there's a longing there for that.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful part of you.
Sorry I didn't like go fully with the.
You did great.
Okay.
You did amazing.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Can I give you?
Yeah.
Wow. That was intense. I felt tears welling up, but I was able to contain it. I think if Blaire had a breakdown, I probably would have cried with Blaire because it would have been really sad. And I think it was really smart. of the therapist to sense how uncomfortable Blaire felt, and instead of forcing Blaire to just go with the exercise and be vulnerable and have a breakdown and possibly have some type of meltdown, what he did was he sensed that Blaire was feeling uncomfortable, and rather than pushing Blaire off that cliff and saying, just go there, what did he do? He stopped and he said, Blaire, give me your hand. I'm with you. You're protected. This is a safe space. You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to hold things down yourself. I'm here. And that's exactly what Blaire needed in that moment. And that's a really good therapist, because a therapist is somebody who can sense what you need and can meet you there, as opposed to pushing you to do something that maybe you're not ready for. I'm sure eventually Blaire probably will be able to do that specific exercise in due time, but I think you have to go through the different layers first. And I think at this point, the therapist is just trying to unlayer all of those emotions that have been buried for years. Emotions that Blaire probably doesn't even realize was there. So kudos to the therapist. That was a really special moment to watch. That is the end of the video, you guys. That was a pretty amazing video. I think a lot of people are going to find value in that video. And if Blaire decides to do more videos, I think more healing to come. And yeah, I feel like that was my therapy session in a way. I kind of feel like I need to like unwind now. Like, that was deep. That was really deep. And it also makes me like, I've never been to therapy before. And I've always wanted to do therapy, but I'm afraid to do therapy because I don't know what's going to be uncovered if I do therapy. And I do not like to be vulnerable either. I'm a control freak. I like to be in control of my feelings and my emotions. And I almost don't know what's underneath the surface. So I'm kind of scared to find out what's underneath. I don't like to cry. I don't like to be vulnerable. I don't like to feel needy in any way, shape, or form. And I sometimes associate therapy with that, because you have to be vulnerable to somebody else and let them unlayer you, pretty much. But I know that one day I will do it, because I think it's important for everybody to be able to unravel the whys in our lives. Unless you had a perfect childhood, congratulations, but the rest of us have not. So yeah, that definitely has got me thinking about myself and maybe doing some therapy for myself. But yeah, guys, let me know in the comments down below what you think of this video. If you've seen the entire video, let me know in the comments down below what you thought watching, and did you relate to anything that was said in the video regarding Blaire's childhood trauma? Did it relate to your own trauma? I would love to hear about that. If you enjoy my content, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit my notification bell so you know when I post a brand new video. Until next time, peace.